You're watching CHCO-TV's gavel-to-gavel coverage of the May 2024 regular council meeting for the Municipal District of St. Stephen. I'm Florence Mitchell. Today's meeting begins with a public hearing of objections to zoning bylaw Z-3-03. Council will later move to give this bylaw its second and third readings by title. Under new business, Council will move to approve the renewal of St. Croix Public Library Board member Mary Hill for a 2-year term. Council will also move to approve the proposed names of 2 new private drives within the municipal district. Council will discuss a request from Assistant Deputy Minister Wilkins to combine 3 taxation subunits within the municipal district into a single subunit. Council will move to approve 3 policies discussed in the May Committee of the Whole meeting: the electronic sign policy, Council grants program policy, and fee waiver and reduction request policy. Additionally, Council will move to accept the resignation of Mr. William Young as shareholder representative and director of the Bayside Port Corporation, and to submit Mr. David Archambault as his replacement. Council will move to award a contract for the Financial System and Processes Review to accounting firm MNP of Dieppe in the amount of $78,750 plus HST and disbursements. Council will also move to authorize the CAO to establish a project management team to oversee the work of the firm. Council will move to redirect $100,000 from the 2024 road surface renewal budget to the 2024 sidewalk renewal budget. Finally, Council will provide a policing priorities meeting update and discuss a proposal to remove the covered bridge at Gateway Park. Now let's join Council at the Moosehead Room in the Garceland Civic Center in St. Stephen.
Okay, welcome everyone to the Municipal District of St. Stephen Council agenda for May 29th, 2024 at 6 p.m. Let's see. Okay, before we begin, I would like to respectfully acknowledge that we are gathered today on ancestral unceded territory of the Passamaquoddy peoples. And first off, get a mover and seconder for the council meeting on May 29th, 2024 be approved. Councilor Wright, Councilor Eastman, and with the addition of one following late agenda item. Okay, sorry about that. Any questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Any conflicts of interest this evening? Okay, seeing none.
Your Worship, I'm just going to admit the person in the waiting room on Zoom, they're with the proponent for the regarding the public hearing.
Which is next. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
all right.
When someone pops up, that's what's going on.
Okay. Well, while we're doing that, I get a mover and seconder for the public and statutory hearing for the public hearing objections and or comments for the proposed zoning bylaw Z-3-03. Mover, Councilor Harding.
Second.
Councilor Heislip.
Yeah, I can do a brief.
I think everything is in the report, but since there are some members of the public here, I will quickly go through the presentation. So this is for a vacant lot on Main Street near the intersection with Queen Street. It's currently in the R2 zone. It's a rezoning application. Oop. I think I need to. Oh. Rezoning application to accommodate a 5-unit apartment building, which is a use that is allowed in the R2B zone. That zone allows for up to 10 units. This, the proponent is Housing NB, which is the provincial government, their housing agency. It's an affordable, rent-geared to income public housing project, which they will own and manage. And it's 750 square foot, 2-bedroom family units. And there would be 5 of them. There are some site challenges. There's a drainage, actually I think it's a sewer easement that goes through there, making it a little bit challenging to fit things on the site, get parking in and everything like that. And they do want to put in an accessible unit. This is very much in line with the statements of provincial interest to promote a range of housing options and to provide a range of affordable housing, as well as to promote and prioritize development in areas of communities with existing or planned public infrastructure and services. This is an infill project. There are infrastructure and services. There are parks and schools within walking distance, so it makes sense for family units. The municipality's municipal plan also would support this project. It encourages a range of housing opportunities in terms of size, type, ownership, status, and location. It also does talk about the character of existing neighborhoods. And while this zone the current zone doesn't work for it, there are lots of smaller apartment buildings in the neighborhood and in other zones. And there's policies around encouraging the development of affordable housing for lower and middle income households and families, and this is right on the money with that one. It also talks about improving the quality and quantity of the town's rental stock, and this will be 5 new family rental units, which are 2 bedrooms are not the most common type in town. Just a quick note on, because I think it did come up in a previous council when this bylaw first came forward. There was a question, what does deeply affordable mean? So what that means in this case, the rent geared to income means 30% of whoever is living there, their income goes to rent. And it depends on their income. That's dealt with through the province. And it would be families on the provincial waiting list for public housing. And I reached out to a contact at Social Development last week to find out how many are on that list. And it's kind of complicated. There's all sorts of intricacies to it, but there's about 95 on the waiting list in the St. Stephen area. So 5 units, obviously very, very needed. And those for these types of units, it's eligible to families with household incomes under $59,500. So it's a great location. You've got a vacant lot with lots of area, lots of frontage. I did talk to the province about maybe trying to do some 2-3 unit buildings in a subdivision. That would actually be allowed in the zone currently. But they're doing this modular project, so they need to do the 5 units, so they wanted to go for the rezoning, and again, it meets all the provincial regulations and municipal plan policies on affordable housing, and that's pretty much it.
All right, so this is our first reading, so I'll read the first reading and then I'll ask for some objections.
No, it's not.
Oh.
Not first reading.
No, just ask for some objections. Okay.
Public hearing. So
All right.
we had no.
Right. We had no written correspondence received by the office for or against the proposal, and subject to that, the only thing would be public comment for anybody here.
Okay, so regarding the public hearing of objections for the comments on the zoning bylaw for Z-3-03, is there any comments or objections from the public? Again, is there any objections to the zoning change? And one more time, is there any objections? All right, seeing none. Okay. And thank you, Xander. And that's much needed, so thank you for that too. Although 5 is a start. I know they wanted to go bigger, but that's the biggest the lot would handle. Okay. So I just did the mover and seconder on that, so everyone's
You didn't get a movement sector anyway, it's just public hearing, so.
all right. I'm good with that too. Thank you.
Yeah, unless there's anybody had anything for the proponent on the screen, but.
Okay. Natalie, how are you?
Good, thank you. Yes, I'm just here this evening to represent Housing New Brunswick in respect to the application that's being considered. So if there's any questions, happy to speak to those.
Yes. Yeah, Councilor Wright?
Thank you. Xander had mentioned it, and it was in our previous package when this came before us before, that it wouldn't have required a rezoning to do 2 separate buildings with 3 in each, which would have given us 6 units. Just what was the, I guess, what makes the 5-unit building preferred versus 2? Was it just the cost of build?
There was some site considerations that came into play, so the best route was determined to do a 5-unit development for the
Okay.
site.
Thank you.
Councilor Rodas?
As far as the 2-bedroom unit, is that dependent, is there a number of children that are allowed in that unit? Like a maximum number of children? So would that be maybe potentially 2 to 3 children for 1 bedroom, or like what would be the allotted size, family size, total family size?
Our programming team directly looks after allotting the clients into the particular units. So those that are eligible for a 2-bedroom unit would be placed accordingly based on their position on the wait list.
Sure.
Okay, any further questions? Okay. Well, thank you, Natalie, and it was nice having that meeting with you on Zoom. It was back a few months back, but I appreciate your work on this. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, so we're all set. Okay, so can I have a mover and seconder for the minutes of the regular council meeting held on April 24th, 2024? Councilor Eastman? Councilor Harding? Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. All right, mover and seconder for the Chief Administrative Officer's report? Okay, Councilor Rodas, Councilor Greenlaw, oh, sorry. Any discussion on that, Jeff?
Thank you, Your Worship. I think the report pretty much covers a rather busy reporting period of the things ongoing, many of which things are already on your agenda later. But I will say that it was nice to take some time and get out of the office and meet with the BIA and the chamber boards. A lot of concerns were articulated, as Councillor Greenlaw will know, as he joined those meetings as well. Some of which we've actually already been able to action in the days following those meetings. So good start. I think we still have a lot of work to do to get where all of us want to be as far as the ongoing partnerships and relationships. But you have to start somewhere, and we did do that, which was really nice. I think you all received notice from Celeste regarding the traffic impact assessment that will be taking place tomorrow in the area around the elementary, St. Stephen Elementary School. That will be provide us some really good information regarding traffic patterns. Anybody who's been on King Street during the peak hours knows we have some challenges there. So that's going to inform some recommendations that come forward, and we'll also be able to inform any potential redevelopment of Border Arena or different use of Border Arena as we talk to the engineers on that about what the potential future looks like, so that we can talk about infrastructure changes or the best way to accommodate traffic flow that currently exists and would be forecasted again in any redevelopment plans. It's an important first step in trying to breathe life back into the Border Arena site. And we're really happy to get that going as quickly as we could. A lot of gratitude to our friends at Dillon Engineering being able to mobilize a crew to come down as quickly as they did, so that we do see normal school patterns, because we know school's getting long in the tooth here for the year, and we wanted to make sure we got captured the good patterns. And a nice little value add is they're going to actually put a drone in the air as well, so that with video capabilities, so we'll actually have footage to reconfirm their in-person counts and look at traffic behavior. So that's going to be a really good thing, and that'll be if anybody sees what people out in high-vis vests hanging around all up and down King Street, that's what they're doing. So a lot of work on policy development this reporting period. Celeste and I have been very busy putting together new ideas and new thoughts that'll come forward at committee of the whole, as well as cleaning up some of the policies that are on your agenda later. The activities of the executive assistants is also there, showing what a valuable resource she continues to be to my office. Anything not in the report is, because it just got forgotten when I was writing it, is that the deputy CAO and I will both be away next week attending professional development training and at the CAMA conference. And so we are looking forward to that, and we'll both be reachable by electronic means if anything comes up, but I'm sure that Mr. Sumner, Mr. Tozer can hold the fort for a few days. And with that, if there's any questions, I'm happy to take.
Questions? Oh, sorry, Councilor Otis.
In terms of the chamber meeting, how did you find it went? What were some key outcomes for you? And I'm excited about that. I think it's great to have a renewed partnership with the chamber and BIA. So maybe you could just share like a few key things that came up in terms of moving forward and ways that we're planning to partner together or collaborate together. It'd be great to just hear that as full council.
In all honesty, a lot of what was brought up, I think, was. I think I even said it to them at the end of the meeting. Was a bit there was some venting that went on, and which wasn't unexpected. When people get frustrated, they need an outlet and they need to vent. And I don't think all the things put on the table were necessarily chamber issues. It may have been personal issues for the chamber members that they've experienced over time. Some of that related to anything from individual dealings they've had here, anything from booking a birthday party to paying a water bill to whatever. So it gave me a good opportunity to talk about some of the enhancements that we are rolling out in some of these regards. But some of the things that we were able to action quite quickly actually is we had there was some talk about doing hazard identifications along the waterfront green spaces and following those meetings, I talked to Mr. Sumner, and we are actually having our crew start their shift with a walkthrough of all the waterfront green space, doing hazard identification, be that a needle, be that a swing that doesn't look right, whatever that may be. And we're tracking all that and addressing it first thing in the morning every morning. Right now it's Monday to Friday due to staffing, but it is trying to make sure that we have a clean slate for the day. It was something that came up at the chamber and the BIA meetings as a concern and something that basically it was asked, couldn't this be done? And we said, yeah, sure, it probably can. So we're starting. It's low-hanging fruit to get some successes under our belts with the idea sharing and the ability to respond to concerns. And we're going to continue. We're going to follow. We already have some requests for some follow-up meetings on a couple things. So it's nice to have those conversations and hopefully start building. Really, it's about building trust at this point. It's building the relationships back up to where we would like them to be.
Remember to push this button. Thank you, Jeff and Wade, for your work on that. I appreciate that, and I do like the thoughts of doing a walkthrough and maybe taking a different path every day to prevent getting the call for the swing set that's broken. You already saw it before someone else saw it. So, as an example. So no, thank you. All right. So I had a mover and seconder. All those any more questions? All those in favor of accepting the CAO report? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, public comments. Any questions or comments from the public?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is David Whittingham. I live in St. Stephen, Ward 2. I just have some comments or questions. Some time ago, the administration was working on revising the dangerous and unsightly premises or properties bylaw, and I'm just wondering what the status is of that project.
on that one? Or maybe?
I guess I'm trying to get more information. The new bylaw for the MD was passed and adopted by this council. If it's referring to the minimum property standards, that was that approach was dropped by direction of council last I knew. Unless there's something new, Chief, that I'm not recalling.
No, I think we had talked about maybe lawn care and that stuff, but the premise of the buildings and whatnot, that part of it was dropped at that time.
Okay, thank you. Can I ask another question?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Also in discussion some time ago at council meetings, or maybe it was council of the whole, was investigating or looking at the possibility of authorized encampments for the homeless, and I'm just wondering what the status of that project is.
You want to take that? Okay.
So what, and I briefed committee of the whole, I think it was a couple weeks ago. On that front, what we're doing right now is I reached out to the Deputy Minister from Social Development to access some expertise surrounding encampments and the best way to set those up and concerns to be looked at, which Mr. Meehan was good enough to provide access to some of the members of his team and some extra resources from external agencies with whom they have contact to provide some expertise into that we don't have in-house to looking at that. So that's an ongoing dialogue. In fact, I talked to Mr. Meehan this afternoon by cell call. So that is still an option in play with other things going on with social development on the unhoused citizens front.
Thank you.
Oh, so you hit your button again. Sorry, I just.
Sorry about that. I'm not supposed to push it, right? In this monthly report, I think it's no, it was bylaws or building inspector, but every month there's a listing that there's five, sometimes 6 unsightly premises that are being investigated under the Unsightly Premises Act bylaw. And the question is, are those the same 5 ones every month? Or are some being settled and there's new ones coming on? Because it seems to be always 5. I think maybe once it was 5 or 6.
Sean?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, you did sort of answer your own question. They do change. Some of them have been there for an extended period of time, and others have come and gone.
Okay. One last thing, and it relates to the council's grant program and the criteria under number 30, which is on page 91 under accountability and recognition. It's number 30 says, in the event that the project does not go forward, the grant recipient shall return those funds granted for the proposed project. There's some situations, I was thinking, say in the winter, a high school basketball tournament or hockey tournament, or maybe, I don't know, the Charlotte County Fall Fair. A snowstorm prevents the event from happening, or a hurricane comes through or something, and it can't be rescheduled because of the facilities not available or whatever. But a lot of organizations planning tournaments like that, incur costs in advance for marketing or other things, or renting facilities, a whole bunch of things, and that would put them in financial distress possibly if that was enforced, because they may have already, the event may be cancelled the day before if it was a snowstorm or something like that. Anyway, it's just something for council to consider if there's some avenue for, mitigation or something, if that's set there's some other way that they could approach, the organizers could approach council to have that item waived.
No, that's good point, David. I mean, I don't imagine the grant would cover the whole event, but who knows? Everything's different. But yeah, it's something to look into. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. right. So, next up, need a mover and seconder to go into the departmental information reports. Council Heislip, Council Otis, Sean.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll start with Protective Services, yes. From the fire side of Protective Services, for the period starting April 14th and ending May 21st, we had a total of 35 calls. Typical calls, nothing extraordinary. The numbers are up a little bit, which is normal for this time of year because of the 10 grass fires, which is actually not a large number, as it could be in other springs. What else do we have here? I went in and completed the Fire Smart 101 online training. I've bounced around their website a few times, different times, but today I actually found an hour to actually do the online training, so I'm now a certified Fire Smart 101 student. And I also managed to get out today after our notification about fire pits earlier in the spring. I got a large list of people wanting fire pits and fire pit inspections, and I wanted to try and get that list clean before we went away next week, because it's going to be the middle of the summer otherwise. So I did make an effort today to get out around and get that.
Oh, can I jump in, just ask you a question on the fire pits before you get into? I had someone ask me, or they told me that you get one inspection, but that's only good for the one fire? Like, that didn't sound right to me. Like, is it for the season?
Yes, it's for the season, and a lot of them, you're supposed to renew it every year, and some of them I do get back. I don't get to every one every year, otherwise I'd be all spring, but typically we try to get around every few years to the ones that are there and longer term, but it's good for the season.
Sean? Councillor Cornish?
Several comments. I guess a few weeks ago on the highway, before or later, just across from the cemetery, there was a fire there I seen the smoke, and I got different calls. There's quite a concern in Ward 1 about the presence of homeless people probably along the trail that's just inside the woods there by the railway track off of Elm Street. And I wanted to know, since you mentioned fire pits, there's a very strong concern, basically a lot of it coming out of St. Andrews last year with the fire, is that the woods, as you said in your last report, there's a lot of trees down. We don't know the condition of them yet, how far they're going, which ones are rotten, and how it's going to be, but are we doing an inspection of that area to ensure that there's no homeless people camping out in there? And what are we doing about open fires? Because if we do have a fire, in my humble opinion, if the wind's blowing in the right or wrong direction, it's either going to take out Ward 1 or it's going to take out part of the town of St. Stephen. What are we doing in additional surveillance of that particular area?
Not in particular, no. We're responding to calls as we receive them in terms of fire pits or smoke. There are encampments all over the place. It would not be physically practical to try and tromp through the woods all over the municipal district and check in on these places, because they're on the move. They might have bed down in one spot tonight and have a little fire and move on to somewhere else. So I wouldn't know where to even start looking, in all honesty. So to answer that question, no, there are not additional patrols unless the public is making us aware of some place to maybe go and look. And I was in that situation today where I had a report of something and I had to go investigate it.
So the bottom line is, due to the lack of manpower, that's the only thing I can think of at the point, that we are probably in almost jeopardy of losing property here if anything happens, like St. Andrews with a bike backfired or whatever happens. But we've got a series of individuals that's actually running around with unofficial campsites, and I'm really frightened, and people from my Ward 1 are scared that if we do have one of those, we could wipe out the entire hill out there, or part of the city, or part of the town rather, because that woods in there is a lot of pine trees and they go up real quick.
Well, I've seen a lot of wildland fires over the years, and they start from all sorts of causes. They can be legitimate fire pits, they can be illegitimate fire pits, they can be lightning, they can be anything. So I won't say it's not a risk, but I wouldn't say our risk is exceptionally heightened beyond what it would have been any other year. That's my opinion, but
Ward 1 would disagree with you. Other than that, I won't say anything else.
okay, thank you. I'm going to carry on with my report. From the enforcement side, bylaw enforcement, I don't have too much to speak about the report itself. I will say that earlier this week, all three of us, myself, the bylaw enforcement officer, and the building inspector, were out and spent most of the day working on enforcement-related files, whether it's dangerous and unsightly, fire pits. There was a number of things that we were out and about, and we even got commandeered for a while to do traffic for the bear that was running through town. I'll speak about the bear shortly. When it comes to building inspection, I was also busy over the last 2 to 3 weeks. I've processed a significant number of public work approvals related to permit applications, and that's a new thing for us. And it's a good thing. It has created a fair bit of work for me as the public works approver for these things, but I will say that it seems like there's a fair bit of work going on around town based on the number of approvals I've had to do for permit applications. And that should be reflected in coming building inspection reports as those things trickle down through the system. So that's from the report. Just an add-on, as I did briefly mention the bears. So I did reach out to DNR, anticipating I might get questions about the bears in town, and asked my contact if he had anything he'd like to say. And he did say, Sean, yes, we are aware of the bears. We have had staff talking to residents. Unfortunately, it's a sow with last year's cubs, and we wouldn't be able to trap all three together. I would advise residents to keep their garbage put away and not to fill their bird feeders for now until the bears move on. If there's nothing there for them to eat, then they should move off into the woods and find food. Also, if you are out around and you're in a part of town where you're worried the bears might be around and you're going to go out in the evening or whatever into the backyard, just make a little bit of noise so that you don't come face to face with them. They're not aggressive. They're very skittish. They're more scared of you than you are of them. As the old saying goes, just make a little bit of noise and they should carry on. The key thing I took from that is they're last year's cubs. So they're sort of independent, but not yet, so it makes it much more difficult for them to try and trap them. I know in the past, if they're this year's cubs, they get the mother in the trap, the little ones will tend to either go in that trap or another trap, but last year's cubs are a little more independent. They'll run around, and which makes trapping them a little more difficult. So.
Hey, yes, you can. Councilor Cornish.
Having dealt with bears for a little bit of a while, one, I met one face-to-face, nose-to-nose, looking through a screen, so that's about as close you get to them, full size. The other thing is, individuals should know that this time of year with the cub and the female, do not get in between them, because you are at risk then, real risk. And I've had that occasion once also, and keep your heads up when you see either a female or any bear and a cub. Do not get in between them. Thanks, Sean.
Okay, you can continue if you want there, Sean.
I think that's all I had to say on protective services. So if anybody had any further questions on protective services before I move on to...
Councillor Harding?
Thank you. Let's go back to these 5 unsightly properties. I've asked you since you've been here. Can you explain to our audience and to the people that's listening what an unsightly property is? Because what I think it is not what you tell me it is. So just explain what it is.
Yes, it is confusing. The biggest problem is that word unsightly. It should never have been attached to that because it has nothing to do with unsightly. That's minimum property standards. So it's dangerous properties. And when we talk about dangerous properties, people say, well, I think that's dangerous. Well, dangerous is very clearly defined within the provincial act, which we basically adopt as our bylaw. And it talks about accumulation of ashes and debris from your wood stoves, used car parts, construction debris, and buildings that are in a state of dilapidation. And that's basically it. So if you don't like the paint or you don't like the long grass or things like that, that has nothing to do with this bylaw. Even though some of those conditions could be dangerous, that's the line that we have to kind of follow. And when it comes to dilapidation, that's why the bylaw, the building inspector is the one that carries out basically the enforcement of this, because they're qualified to look at a structure and say yay or nay on the state of that. And in some cases that goes beyond the scope of what the building inspector is able to do. And at that point we have to bring in engineers that are specific to that particular piece of property, be it a brick facade or a skyscraper or a building such as this. The building inspector wouldn't have necessarily the qualifications to do that, and we have to bring in an expert on that.
Thank you. Part 2. The property on 80 Union Street is still being used, okay? I go by it every day from when I take my daughter to work. I go by it every day, and there's a boatload of trash on the veranda. So, and not only that, I'm getting complaints about it. That is not unsightly, I know, but is there anything, I mean, other than rounding these people up, anything we can do?
It's very complicated. There are a number of buildings like that, and I'm not going to tell you anything you don't already know. Whether it's protective services, the RCMP, the fire marshal, SCAN, any number of organizations that go in and remove the people from that building. We know what happens. They go to another building, and we chase them out of that building, and they go to another building. So I hear your pain. We're doing our best. We're tackling the ones that, we're watching them all. There are some that we're able to go after because there are more obvious things and easier things for us to prove, right? And so we go after the things that we can prove. And part of this is proven. We've got landlords that aren't landlords and caretakers that there's any number of caretakers claiming to be caretakers, and who do you talk to? Who do you believe? It's incredibly complicated, and I don't know what else to say other than that.
Well, I'll say thank you. I know that you're doing your best, and I know that it's a hard hill to climb. Thank you, Sean.
You still have a question, Councilor Greenlaw? Yep.
on the mass evacuation plan. I was really glad to see that in there. So it says an email was sent to the regional coordinator. So have they accepted the responsibility to actually create that plan?
Short answer, no. But you'll note that I was at the NBAFC convention on the weekend, and it was not directly speaking about that, but indirectly, I got asked to come up and speak on something, and while I was up there, I took the opportunity, knowing that there were other regional emergency measures coordinators in the crowd that were there as firefighters, and fire chiefs and EMO type people, municipal, local government officials from all over the province, and I spoke to that fact that local governments can create, small-scale evacuation plans. We do small-scale evacuations all of the time, whether it's a single family or an apartment building or a street. That's within the scope of what we can do, and I encouraged the others to do what I did. Ask up the chain, because when we're talking about a mass evacuation, that's not evacuating the Hannah Road or Todd's Ledge. That's evacuating the community, like what we're seeing in Fort Nelson and these places. Like, you start moving 9,000-10,000 people around, that's going to take, it's going to be a provincial thing. It's not even a municipal thing at that point. So that's why I sent that message that, yes, it's great, we do, and we need to think about that, because wildfires and hurricanes and all those things are getting bigger and stronger, and it's just a matter of time before we do have to. But the Stein Lake fire is what I was actually speaking about when I got asked to come forward, and it was put on display, even though that would not have qualified as a mass evacuation. That was a localized thing, but in the days following the startup of the fire, as we had to expand, when you remove people from their homes, you have to block roads, you have to have public safety officials out there to keep things secure. That, we can't dictate that, that has to be done by the region or the province. So that's kind of where I was going with that. And hopefully that message will get heard, and they'll come back and say, okay, if we have to do an evacuation plan, this is how it's going to work, and we build our plan to mesh with that. Hopefully that's where we can get.
Same topic? Okay. Councilor Cornish?
Sean, I've had, again, many contacts with people, but something that I've talked with a couple of the other councilors on. Is there any chance of the RCMP and or your department in combination be able to build a scatter diagram so we can start tracking, for instance, break-ins, fires caused by what, color-coded, so we can actually start seeing a pattern around the town where some of this activity is taking place? Now, I was in St. John last week. I had a chance to run into a counselor from St. John. We were a speaking engagement together, and basically he calls St. John zones. Apparently St. John, he said, I feel sorry for you guys down there, because St. Stephen they're everywhere. Homeless, drugs, whatever. But he was telling to me, and I didn't get any deeper on it, but I know St. John fairly well. But he basically says St. John is broken into zones of where activity is taking place. And I know that a few of us councilors around the table here have talked this out. We'd like to get a scattered diagram, I would say at least bi-monthly, of where action is taking place, where things are, where someone's been given a needle to bring them back to life, or someone started a fire in the woods, or the police had to arrest somebody, but basically by color code, so we can start seeing just exactly where all this activity is taking place.
Let's make one. Or do you reply to that? I think that's at committee level. If there's something like that, we should bring that to committee so we can actually discuss it and set something in motion, not at council, but.
Okay, I didn't know where to ask it, but I'm going to ask it, and let's put that in a proposal, because I think that's a valuable tool we need.
No? Sean?
We do have a tool that we're starting to implement here, the Access E11 app, which is to track complaints and things like that around the town. Now, the RCMP won't be feeding into that, and certain, I'd have to look at the fire reporting part of it. We report all of that stuff into the fire marshal's office, and they track that, but I'm not sure they'll release that information. I'd have to look at that.
Food for thought for now. Maybe you can do a little investigation, and I think that's something that many people, well, we would like to see. What's the activity and where is it taking place, and maybe we can zone it. So thank you very much, Sean.
Councilor Rodas?
Well, you made a good point, Sean, when you said ask up the chain, because we've expressed all along that there are provincial mandates that need to be taken care of, so that's not totally in our court. And what I'm more concerned about actually is Sean's time, because, you know, he is dealing with the symptoms of a housing crisis, and it's pretty unfair to put that on our team to kind of chase around people. When you work in the addictions field, like myself, all day, every day, you know how quickly people move, and it can be within every 3 hours they're moving somewhere else. So I would actually ask you too, Sean, to kind of just have a general idea of how many hours a week that you would spend on people calling about a fire here, or somebody in their backyard, or somebody because the other piece of this is staff time. So, I mean, we can't really ask him. He could, just knowing the complexity of this population, he could do this 40 hours a week. I would prefer that our team coordinate and deal with more pressing municipal issues like fire plans that are localized and things like that. I do worry about that. So maybe at committee we can talk about that too, just having a more streamlined process, like you said, for people to make complaints, or if they want to report a fire that's back in the woods, that they can use a quick app, because I can imagine that you get lots of phone calls and lots of emails, and those add up, and it makes it very challenging for you to do your actual job. So just kudos to you and your team for working together and doing the best you can with what you have.
Two other questions for Sean.
Okay, we got a couple over this way first. We can come back. Councilor Wright.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. If I may ask, Sean, you mentioned something that you're doing something new, approvals. I'm getting off topic. Going back to your original one. Approvals for public works developments are a new thing. Is that a new mandate of the province, or something, a new task that you've taken on? It used to be done by somebody else, just because I'm nosy.
Well, it comes from the RSC and how they're taking development files, and so basically they do their development side, then they send it off to Public Works and say, are there any issues that you see here, like underground infrastructure? There's a whole list of categories. They didn't do that before, and then a lot of the time somebody would come in and we'd catch it maybe at the building point, or they'd go in and dig a hole and rip our infrastructure out of the ground, and we catch it then. So it's new. It's the RSC has implemented it, and it's a lot of the time there's nothing for me to say, and I just say there's nothing for me to say. But there are times where it's like, yes, there are relevant things here. So that's where it comes from.
Your follow-up, Councilor Greenlaw?
Yes, on the fire on Brewer Lane, I'm wondering if it was was it in a fire pit? Was it an approved fire where it was? Or was it somebody doing something that was outside the bounds of what regulation would be? And if so, is there any repercussions for that?
It was a campfire in the woods that was very small, that got left, and it picked up the next day and started to go. I went in expecting to find an encampment and a campfire, and I found where it had been a campfire, but it had started to go. So, and there was nobody around. As I say, they're on the move. Somebody sat down there, had a sandwich, had a drink, a juice box, lit a little fire to get warm up their toes, got up, thought they had it out, walked away. So it wasn't nefarious, it just happened.
Okay. I'm gonna move on. I'm just going to say a few words, because actually what Councilor Rowe is saying is we do got to be concerned about our staff time, because we got our staff working on housing developments and stuff like that will actually help us with these scenarios we're having. They're all related. So I come from a proactive world, and we got to get upstream and take care of those things, and it will alleviate the stress we're in. It's not perfect, but I agree. We got to, yeah, 100%, or we're going to darn well try. So yeah, the infrastructure, Sean. Thanks, everyone.
All right. As usual, as every month, my staff and infrastructure give me a breakdown of the high-level stuff that we did in sections 1, 2, 3, and 4. I don't have a whole lot to comment on that. In other, I listed a few things. And again, I don't have a lot to say about that, except for the King Street lift station required a pump rebuild and related repairs. This piece of infrastructure was a top priority for rebuild, but got bumped in 2023 when the gas tax fund was used for the pool deck repairs. Since the writing of this report, we had another failure. That piece of infrastructure needs to get fixed. It's critical, so hopefully some gas tax money will appear or something, but that can't get bumped again. I wish it could. And it's not like the Bud Avenue one that my staff took apart and rebuilt. The structure itself was fine. It was just the plumbing and the pumps and stuff. We were able to take it apart and put it back together. That structure is not the same. If we look at it the wrong way, it's not going to be good. So it requires a rebuild. So that you will hear from me, hopefully. Not too often.
Just going to add on to that.
Yeah.
Just when it comes to the we also call it gas tax, but CCBF funds, one of the things that Councillor Greenlaw and his colleagues at UMNB were working on was making sure to lobby hard for New Brunswick to maybe change past behavior and not be the last one to sign the renewal in the country for the CCBF program. And one of the things they did as a preparatory thing was survey the CAOs regarding what the impacts would be if there was a delay in the CCBF renewal. So I did take the opportunity to articulate back to our friends at UMNB specifically that we have a significant infrastructure that requires those funds to be flowing so that we can access them to get this work done. So that it did serve as an example to move up to your lobbying body to hopefully encourage the government to expedite the negotiations with the federal government to let that CCBF funds flow quickly to the municipality so we can get this work going quickly. Back to you.
Thank you. From the report, I don't have a whole lot more to add, just some updates on things after the writing of the report. Line painting, you may have seen the line painting truck around town. It's here. It's early. We're glad to have it. Yeah, we're glad to have it. So you'll see that out and around. School Street is being paved as we speak today, and Union Street is next. They have it prepped and ready. I'm not sure if that's going to start tomorrow, but it's imminent that's going to get paved as well. And also, our crew is planning to begin filling the potholes starting on King Street. Hopefully next week. We ordered a tack material, which is basically a pre-treatment that we put in the holes, which should hopefully hold those patches in because of the size and the extent of the holes, and it's falling apart as fast as we can fill them. So we're going to try and do a little bit better job, spend a little bit more money to fill these holes in, and hopefully they'll last a little longer. So that barrel of stuff should be here early next week, and you'll probably see us on King Street starting to fill in some of those craters. I guess that's all I have. I'm open to questions.
Councilor Cornish?
Sean, just a couple of things. I've got several phone calls on Scudic Street. I don't know if there's any truth to it or not. I just have to listen to our constituents and basically listen to them. But the last episode was, I believe 6. Witnesses said that they were going to close up the building, put boards on them, this sort of thing, prohibited from doing it for some reason they do not know. There's an individual that's got a parent living there that's scared to death. So I got one general question. They've got 2 buildings now. I believe they're both vacant, one for several years now, plus this newest one. Are we going to take those down? What are we going to do with them? Because they're basically their habitat for unwanted individuals, and they've been sitting there a long time. So do we tear them down or let someone burn them down?
Sean?
Well, there's a number of buildings that are just like that, and that is part of what makes it complicated. If I take those 2 down, do I take the other 15 or 20 that are just like it? And you know, it's a complicated problem. I think it's not for me to decide. We follow the dangerous and unsightly premises. And this is the thing, are those tenants legitimate or are they not? It's hard for us to prove. We know that likely they aren't, but within those buildings, and some of those buildings, there are still tenants that were there prior to the landlord going absent that are still legitimate. So trying to determine who's who and what's what is complicated. I can't really, when it comes to dangerous and unsightly, I cannot speak to specific property, especially in this forum, because if we do decide to take action, talking about them here will tarnish that. So I can't answer direct questions on that.
Again, in private council session or whatever, this is something that's becoming, I'm getting a lot of meetings on this one. We've got these buildings, there are people in and out, like you say, we got no control over them, but sooner or later, one of these places is going to catch on fire and people are going to die. And I hate to see it go to that point that we haven't taken the time to look after this. We have to wait for the inevitable. That's all I'm going to say on that subject, but I'd like to go a little bit further on that. Second thing I have a question for you, this is a little easier, I think, I hope. There's a bunch of building blocks sitting across from the bank down here on the main street between the gym and one of the restaurants, and they've been there for some time. Now there's 2 layers of them, quite large. I don't know if they're trying a Lego contest or what's going on, but the building doesn't seem to be changing on the facade whatsoever, other than just a mess on the front street. And we've got tourists coming in, and we've got a lot of questions like, what the hell's going on? So,
I think we talked about that before. Answer that, Sean?
Again, dangerous and unsightly premises, I cannot give specific details on specific properties. I hear what you're saying. We are working on all of these files as expeditiously as we can. I hope you will see results soon. That's all I can say.
Okay. Councilor Heislip? No, go ahead.
I'll probably answer it myself. This is, I was just talking to somebody the other day. I just wanted my own thinking here. This will be on infrastructure too, and probably more Jeff's answer on this one. Maybe. You might do it too. So anyway, it's a question on when we contract out a contractor and we do it for like water and sewer, and they do a specific project for us, and there's a faulty part to that installation. I'm trying to be generic here because there is a specific spot here that I'm talking about. So they do something, we take over that when they finish their contract, and it's our responsibility, even though might be something that they did delinquently, or they did, by mistake, or they could have done it on purpose, cutting corners or whatever, and we miss it in our inspection, or the engineering company misses it on their final inspection. Whose responsibility is that? Is that the town's responsibility, or do we go back to the contractor who did the work, or?
speaking in generalities, it'll depend on the contract. Most work has a warranty, especially in infrastructure. That if it is negligent on the part of the contractor, our engineers do follow up on that. And that's one of the reasons that we have significant holdbacks on projects is for those kind of things. If something comes up and they don't come back to repair it or whatever it is, we repair it using their holdback money. So there's a legal process for going through that. So it's not automatically inherited and we have to deal with it. It's there. You may see what's perceived to be a failure on a project, and we have behind the scenes. It eventually gets fixed. Behind the scenes, we've probably had 9 discussions with the engineers and their lawyer and their this and that and everything to get this sorted out. But we do we have fail safes involved for sure.
I guess what if it's past that warranty period, like it's a couple of years, and you're not seeing a sinkhole or something like that, but there might be a failure in a connection or not a connection there at all, or right? I see you smile, so you probably know what I'm talking about now.
and I guess to say the same thing. The same thing would be same as the warranty on your truck. When you're out of warranty, you're out of warranty, and one of the things that we do is we try to make sure that we're working with reputable firms that do good work and have historically done good work for us, and so that we don't end up with problems down the road. But every so often there's a failure, and sometimes you gotta deal with it, and we do the best we can. One of the reasons we have reserves and things like that is to deal with the unknown, right? And so that's insurance and lots of things, right? So we try to protect the taxpayer from unknowns as much as we can, but we all live in the same world, and things happen, and we have to address them when they do.
Councilor Rodas?
It's a really quick one too, and an easy one. For the splash pad for the underground structure and the new meter that's been ordered, is there going to be a timeline on that? Is that going to hinder the use into the summer, or is that just because of parts and timelines and things like that?
I know the parts were supposed to arrive late last week. I didn't see any equipment digging there yet this week, but it might have happened and I just not noticed. But it should happen very soon, and we are aware that we're probably already on the verge of interfering with operations. Point taken, and I hope you'll see something there very soon.
Okay. Councilor Wright?
One comment, one question. I'm pleased to see the meters on municipal assets going forward. That was something that came out of council discussions and with the CAO, and that's great to see that that's happening and become a priority. The second question was the street sweeping reduce. And do you feel that was a direct result of the change in program? I mean, our weather played a part. We didn't have much snow, but was it a direct result of the switch to using more salt versus less sand?
Absolutely. The number, I don't have a number now, but the number of loads that we're hauling away is fractions, small fractions of what it was. Still takes the same amount of time to go down through, but even really it doesn't. You can make one pass and get it where before you might have had to take 2 or 3 if it was really thick. So it's a huge success. Let's hope that we're able to continue with that.
Okay. That's a lot, Sean. You got a lot going on there.
Take your breath, it's everything.
So, Jeff, Southwestern Project Service Commission, MD Planning Report. Xander, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I'm mostly going to read through Alex's report. I'll try to add a few things, and if there's questions, I'll do my best to answer them. So we had the public hearing tonight for the rezoning application for new housing at 68 Main Street. PRAC also provided their views in favor at their last meeting. We are working quite hard, both Alex and I, on the pre-consultation report for a new municipal plan for the entire municipal district. We're both residents here, so we're taking it very, very seriously. There was also another small housing project approved by PRAC, an accessory dwelling unit in a garage, a little conversion there. So adding just a little bit of gentle density, that's a good thing. In terms of development generally, we've issued 31 building permits. Well, we haven't issued the permits. We passed the development side off to Manzer on 31 building permits to date, 7 development permits. The total value of construction is $2,678,712. We've approved 9 new subdivision applications, and 14 new building lots have been added to the municipal district out of this year to the state. We've done 12 zoning confirmation letters, 6 variance or terms and conditions applications, and 1 document approved and exempted for registry. In terms of interdepartmental updates, we're working on making the development incentive application online. It might actually be in operation already. We're working very closely with Future St. Stephen on a couple of different projects. There's the regional economic development business gap analysis, and that's going to give input into our municipal plan process as well. Both Jeremy and I have had several meetings, and I'll give most of the credit to Jeremy on this one, with developer, and hopefully they're going to make something happen. We had a meeting with CMHC last week that was very, very positive about getting some funding to make things more affordable, and we'll be meeting with the provincial affordable housing program folks Friday to talk more about that. So very exciting, and it's great to hear the traffic study is moving ahead with that. I think actually as of today, there was a zoning violation that had been ongoing, and I think as of today it is resolved. That's my understanding. I can't speak to specifics, but something that a lot of us worked on and did get some progress, so that's nice. We also did create a municipal tax subunit map for the administration and council, and I think you're going to be talking about that a little bit tonight. So we have more GIS services now, so that's a nice thing we can provide. So that's the report. I'll do my best to answer any questions.
Councilor Greenlaw.
The pre-consultation report for the MDSS plan, that's what you would bring to council before, and consultation means public consultation?
Yes, public consultation. So.
Okay, and is there a rough timeline?
I mean, we have the draft done, and we're just kind of editing it, adding a few little details, probably in the next few weeks.
Excellent.
Yeah.
One quick follow-up, I see that there were 6 variances or terms and condition applications approved. How many are actually denied? Can we add that in there? Say that, 7 variances were...
Yeah, I honestly myself, I don't attend a lot of PRAC meetings. I can tell you the last one, it's fairly unusual to deny an application because we try and work with the applicants, and we don't like to recommend against things. So
I can just watch PRAC for that.
Yeah,
I do.
Yeah, but yeah, so it's not the most common thing.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Otis.
I just want to thank you for your commitment and collaboration with, other organizations and community, and the commitment to housing. It is actually really exciting to hear that housing seems to be a common theme and priority of the RSC. So just appreciate all your hard work and really advocating higher up and at the top and having conversations with provincial counterparts. And I love that that's a constant theme, because as we know, like you said, it's just such a huge need. So let's get all those 95 on the waiting list. Let's get them all housed. No pressure.
Yeah, it's one of those things that there's a lot of work that goes on in these things, but all of a sudden it'll appear in front of your eyes, and it's one of those things. It takes a lot of time. Although we were pushing for housing over 5 years ago, it just wasn't the word of the day, and it would have been a great time to build, and they've been making gravy right now. But anyway, it's unfolding like you said. It is. Councilor Harding.
Thank you, Worship. I'm not familiar with this application, so now do you go to the people along Main Street and tell them what's happening? I know it's a provincial thing, or does the province do that? Or is there any sort of outreach to say?
Yeah.
Oh.
So there were
Okay.
advertisements posted for that,
then you
and
can come back. Okay.
yep.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yep, and I know the province had been out digging test pits and things like that, and so there were some conversations with neighbors at that point.
Good, thank you.
You're done with your report? Yes. Okay. Thank you so much, Andrew.
I'll stick around for the readings.
Okay. So next up is community service report. You going to take that, Jeff? Or?
Yeah, I will. I don't want to speak for him, but as you can see from the reports, Community Services Department is busy this time of year. Huge kudos to the team for some of the major events that they've pulled off in this reporting period, being the cheer competition, the trade show. They're really hitting their stride for the summer here. But yeah, Mr. Sumner is away at his development conference right now. But if there's any questions or things for me to bring back to him, happy to do that.
All right. Oh, I'm just going to move on. All right, go ahead.
I just wanted to comment on the St. Stephen Wildcats who partook in the Special Olympics provincial qualifying meet on May 26th. So that's just really awesome. And I'm really happy to see that we have a group and community participating in Special Olympics. So just wanted to comment on that, and great job to the team because there has been so many different events going on. The last quick thing is, as far as the Rotary field, is that field currently lined, and do we line it? And I'm just not familiar with when and how we line the fields or whose responsibility that is. I know that's the one we technically own, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Whether it's currently lined, I haven't been out there myself in a while. But yeah, we own it. We will do the lines on it and things and maintain that one for whatever it's going on, for sure.
Okay, I'm going to jump right into the next one here for us. Well, actually, no, Tim's not here. So next up is the treasurer report. Is there any questions on that, folks? I don't know. Let's see.
I would do the best I can.
Okay.
I'll probably answer it tomorrow, so I'm happy to take them.
Councilor Greenlaw.
All right, real quick, I just noticed the, check cut for the blower rental. And I'm just wondering, one, how much longer? And is that part of the insurance claim?
That's a public works question.
Yeah, it is. Well, the blower will be in place until the new building is in place. I asked for an update today, which I didn't talk about because there's not much to tell you, on the status of the tender for the new building, and just a few minor updates. And we're waiting on approval from the insurance brokers to move forward. So we're very close to putting a tender out, but that's a long ways from a building. And we did receive the blowers. We've got 3 new blowers that are taking up half of my public works floor space, and I'm not exaggerating, that have to be kept inside, have to follow a maintenance regime, which I'm still trying to get worked out. These things are monsters. Like, it's, all kinds of problems related to that. I wish we could get solved quickly, but I would guess a year before that. Yeah.
$1,000 looks like a month for rental.
As far as the insurance, Frank could answer those questions better, but we're probably going to be over on our, if we're not already, I think we probably are already, as far as what they're going to cover for some of these different lines. That would be one of them. I know the local representatives were going to look at where some of these things, which pot they were being put in, to see if we could take some out of the cap pot and put it into the bigger cap pot to try and get us more cash. But I don't know where that ever fell.
Notice the screens aren't lit up. Are we offline now, or?
Yeah, there was only the one person, well, we're still broadcasting.
Oh, okay.
There was just the one person on the Zoom call, but when she left, I turned the screens off.
I see. No. See, we're in darkness up there. No, I don't. Okay, any further questions? Oh, sorry, Councilor Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. I was going to ask Tim, but he's not here. I noticed in your report you have the annual report for the town that's being prepared, and I know part of that's supposed to be our audited financial statements. Tim's not here to ask, so has he updated you on the status of the audit of the financial statements for last year? I know for the past fiscal year, I know when we were working on last year's budget, it was kind of a challenge, and I know that's not your domain, but do you have an update?
The department, one of the reasons that Mr. Tozer's not here is that he's trying to use his time to focus on the audit. It's not progressing as quickly as I would prefer at this point, and or he would prefer at this point either. We've had that conversation, but yeah, I think it's probably better at this stage to get that directly from him and his team, because I'm out of the loop as to where exactly they are on most of those closing out months as they go.
We'll look at that for you.
Thank you.
Sorry. Okay. All right. Move on to Future St. Stephen.
Thank you. Thanks. The first point there on the hotel just needs a correction. I wrote it last week. When we have to submit these, it should say the bids close day after tomorrow. It's just, I wrote it a week ago. It's going to be exciting to see who buys it. As Xander said, we're working together on several developments. It's a pleasure working with the planning department that's actually keen and invested in making that happen. It's great to work in a team. And we're supporting a non-profit developer who wants to build a 20-unit affordable housing development in Milltown, which should have similar criteria for deeply affordable for at least half the units. The Carry rideshare service is going well, and we consequently have expanded so you can go anywhere you like now. No restrictions. You can't go from like St Andrews to St John, something like that, but if you're here and you're in the greater St Stephen area, you can book a ride to pretty much anywhere, like Fredericton Airport, St John Airport, you could go to if you wanted to. So that's a success, we think. It's expensive, but it's an option, right? You got to pay somebody to drive you all the way there and back. It's never going to be cheap. But before we've had no option, no sort of publicly available option that you could book at the last minute sort of thing. So if you get stuck, now you've got a way of getting home, basically, which we feel is a big advantage. And I'm going to just send out flyers again, and this time put some instructions on some of the feedback that we didn't really get feedback, but I just noticed that I think I made an assumption that everybody knew what rideshare was because of Uber, but that's not the case. So I'm sending out the flyer again, and on the back of it is a whole list of instructions on what it is and how it works. So hopefully those people who haven't heard of Uber and associated that with Carry will have some step-by-step instructions and realize that it's just like a taxi, but better. So those will go out probably next week. And yeah, I'm working with the RSC on the business gap analysis. That's data collection for trying to establish new businesses here. Any questions?
I have ask a question for a change here. Sorry. When you say Carrie's cost is expensive, but in comparison to, we'll say, others, this is in comparison with other ride shares, right? Like
No. It should be even better than a regular rideshare service, actually. Yeah, but I mean in comparison, say, if there was a bus service. Yeah, then you might be able to get to St. John for, $60 or something. I don't actually know that's true. I'm just assuming it would be around $60, something like that.
To St. John. Anyway, yeah. Okay. No, that's good. Thanks, Councilor Rodas.
So I'm excited about everything on the report. I will say too that in my house we tried Carrie. It was great. It was actually super cool. It was the guy's maybe like second day. The irony was he took us to St. Andrews, but then it wasn't extended to St. Andrews, and he didn't really know. And then we kind of had to find a ride back. But so I'm excited that you've extended the reach, because I have noticed there are a lot of people that would like to go to maybe St. Andrews or St. George. So basically it can essentially go now to the cities now. But if you're in the city and you need to be picked up for a return, that's not a possibility.
No, that is a possibility.
Oh, that is a possibility. Okay. So anyway, the other piece of that is I was recently in Halifax and introduced my grandmother to Uber, and she thought it was the cat's meow. So once people actually figure out how to use it, it's really wonderful to just be able to order it and have somebody come, give some feedback, and it's actually not too costly at all. It really wasn't. It was pretty much comparable to any other Uber to go to St. Andrews. So I'm just really excited about that. That's really great work, and it's such a gap in our community, and at least now we have an option. It's just really great to have an option, so thank you.
Councilor Eastman.
Yeah, I noticed on your report you have no update yet on Shine Properties. Are we dealing with that through the legal aspect?
So Sean deals with it in one angle. I'm trying a different angle, and I'm not at liberty to say what that angle is at this point. I hoped I would be able to, but can't. But I will one day be able to. Yeah, just trying another angle that hasn't panned out yet, but hopefully at some point we'll make some progress.
Councilor Heislip.
Yeah, I just have a question about the hotel. It is exciting that these are going to be closing soon, but what's the next step after that? Like, who finds out? When do we find out? Would you be approaching a case if it's somebody that wants to do something on that property, or how is it going to work after we find out? Do we even have any business in the, right?
Yes. Arguably, we have no rights, let's say, but it is our business in that it's where it is. And I feel like it's a high priority for Future St. Stephen to pursue whoever the bidder is, the winning bidder is, and with any luck, shape what gets built there. I know who I hope gets it. But, yeah.
Carry on here. All right. Thank you, Jeremy. Okay, that's the end of the departmental information reports. I had a mover, I had a seconder, no more questions. All those in favor of accepting all the reports? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. All right, next up, bylaws. Need a mover and seconder for bylaw number Z-3-03, second reading. Councilor Harding, Councilor Greenlaw, that bylaw Z-3-03, a bylaw to amend bylaw number Z-3 being the zoning bylaw for the town of St. Stephen, be given a second reading by title. I had a mover, I had a seconder. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Second reading has been done. Thank you. Next up, mover and seconder for bylaw number Z-3-03, third reading. Councilor Heislip?
Second.
Councilor Eastman, that the bylaw number Z-3-03, a bylaw to amend bylaw number Z-3 being the zoning bylaw for the town of St. Stephen, be given its third and final reading by title. Questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you so much. That's for the third and final reading. Okay, next up, new business. I need a mover and seconder for the library board renewal of term.
So moved.
M. Hill. Councilor Wright? Councilor Harding, sorry. Resolution that the council approve the renewal of the St. Croix Public Library board member Mary Hill for a 2-year term. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Mary Hill, for stepping up and library board. Much appreciated. Next up, private drive name request. A mover and seconder for the new private drive name request for Croy View Lane. Councilor Rodas? Councilor Greenlaw? That council approve the Croy View Lane as the name for the new private drive located in Crocker Hill off Ledgewood Drive. Any questions? Councilor Heislip?
For these private lanes, it's obviously private, so they're paying for the signage privately, and does it link? I'll do a follow-up question after that.
My past experience with private lanes is that we have put the signage up.
It's our responsibility to put it's our responsibility to put the signage up, and is it mapped out somewhere too? So, you know, when you get a call that says this lane or whatever, you can actually know where it is? I guess if you put it up, you want to know where it is, right?
Yeah.
This is another thing that is, it's not new. Before we were, as in my role, I was responsible for it in town. We didn't get a lot of new roads. We get the odd civic number request. With the expansion to the municipal district, I am doing a tremendous amount of work associated with civic number requests, subdivision, new lanes. That comes to me first as a director of infrastructure. The names have to be vetted. That particular one, we went through about 12 names before we finally got to that one, because what happens is they throw out a name, and then I have to go and search the database within the response area for the St. Stephen RCMP, the St. Stephen Fire Department, the ambulance. So any road name within the territory of the St. Stephen RCMP or the Municipal District Fire Service or the ambulance service cannot remotely sound like that. And the first 5 or 6 ones that had ledge in it. So I was like, no. And eventually we got to that. So it's a process. That, the fact that it even needed a name and a private lane is a direct result of the numbering of Ledgewood Drive. There was no room for any civic numbers off of Ledgewood Drive because it went 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. So that was a compromise with the RSC that took a whole bunch of back and forth. Like, I either have to change 6 people's civic addresses to create space for this driveway that comes off of Ledgewood Drive, which is not going to make 6 people very happy, or create a private lane. So that was that process. So there's a lot of work. And yes, it gets registered with MB 911. And as soon as this passes, I'll go in and send them the notification, and that will come up for any first responder or anybody in the province that looks for that lane. So it is a process. more work that was created by the creation of the municipal district. I do a lot of civic number, and there are a lot of messes out there that I have to sort through because the province didn't necessarily follow their own guidelines and rules when they set out numbers, and it can be complicated, but I spend a lot of work at it, but it does get ultimately registered with MB 911 and Protective Services.
Yeah, one of the meetings I attended today with the everyone in the province, it's this new density that's causing our stresses. I mean, it's a good problem to have, but when you add more density, you got 1, 3, 5, and you got to put someone between there, and you already got 2 obviously across the street. What do you put there? I can see our problem because literally, and that's in a rural area starting to see it. But I'm sure this has been thought about. Just I have to ask, like, can there not be 2.5 or 2A or instead of a whole street or lane?
In extreme cases, we'll use unit numbers like 2A if there's more than one building on that property, on that PID. We'll use unit numbers. 2.5 is complicated. They don't want to do that.
Anyway, I'm sure someone's already thought of it. I don't even know why I asked.
Or what, right? A first responder is going to say, what? Because that would be out of the ordinary. So it sometimes compromises have to be made. In this case, it was create a private lane. That was the simplest solution.
Okay.
Just that this is a good example of something that looks something trivial on paper that we're just going to pass, and then you ask a question, and all of a sudden you find out what the depth of the work that goes into it. And there's a lot of other things that are on our agenda that people think, well, you can just wave a wand and just, or you're easily done. Can you do that tomorrow? But that's a good example of how much work it takes to do something and how much time and effort that it does to do something. So thanks for explaining that. It's great.
My question always is who did that before us, before we inherit, like the province had to have done this, and so is that person still sitting there that used to do this job? I don't know. I can't even get into it. But I don't even want to get into it, but yeah. Anyway, which we're paying for. Yeah. Yes, Councilor Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. And as the report says in there, that before it comes to us for a vote, it has to already be accepted by infrastructure and MB 911. So when it comes to us, the bulk of the work is done, and we can trust that the necessary research has been done. A lot of work.
Okay, no, thank you. So I had a mover, I had a seconder for the proposed name change or name lane addition for Croyview Lane. Any more questions? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay. All right, can I have a mover and seconder? The first one had a little bit of a tongue twister to it for me. I don't know why, but anyway, this one's a little bit better for me. As Thomas Creek Lane. Can I have a mover and seconder for the resolution for Thomas Creek Lane? Councilor Eastman. Councilor Cornish. The council approved Thomas Creek Lane as the name for a new private drive located in Oak Bay off Island View Drive. Any questions? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? There we go. We already asked the questions on the last one, so we already know it. All right, thank you. All right, next I need a mover and seconder for the taxation sub-unit amendment. Councilor Rodas, Councilor Greenlaw. The council directs the Chief Administrative Officer to respond to the memo from Assistant Deputy Minister Wilkins requesting that Dufferin, St. Stephen, St. David Ridge, and Charlotte Weston taxation subunits be combined into a single rural taxation subunit. Okay, I had a mover, had a seconder. Any questions? Oh, you certainly can. Jeff?
Thank you, Your Worship. So as you'll have seen from the package, somewhat out of the blue, to be perfectly honest, we got this memo from the Assistant Deputy Minister, and in typical, unfortunately, typical GNB fashion, the timeline to get a response back to them is quite short, so it had to come to this council meeting. As my report noted, when the transition team was in place, and we had done our recommendations around electoral ward boundaries, we also had put in a recommendation around the taxation subunits. At the time, the recommendation that was put forward was to go to basically to have a 2 tax rate system, urban and rural. That went into the government. In their infinite wisdom, they came back with the multi-staged approach that they decided to give us. The intention of the government, at least the written intention in the reports, was to have taxing subunits based on the services being provided and received from the different taxing subunits, and that they should be equal. I think if you actually laid out all the numbers in front of you as before versus after the amalgamation happened, what I believe, my personal belief, what I believe probably more likely happened was they grouped the taxation subunits based on the taxation rates of the day. St. Stephen and Dufferin were very similar, and the other 2 were slightly different. And it was much easier to just draw the lines around the current areas and send them back to us. When I took a look at it, just for council's knowledge, the services levels that we look at in the rural areas, I mean, we look at garbage, planning, fire, general governance, which is what we do here, recreation, roads. All of our rural taxation subunits are receiving those services in the same manner. There is no differential. There's no difference there. So it's not a service-based differential. So when if you remove that there, what we've seen as we've torn apart the material that came over as part of transition, in my opinion, and I work with Sean on this too, in the early days, what we've seen is that St. David was being used because it had a high assessment base, was being used to subsidize some of these services being provided in the other rural areas, which is why their tax rates were a little bit higher than some of the others. We've seen that even with some of the fire truck payments we inherited for fire trucks that St. David were paying for that don't exist inside our municipal boundaries. But it's just the way the government did their math back in the day. If we were to go with, if council was to approve the recommendation going forward, just for your knowledge, if we were trying to raise the same amount of revenue from the rural areas that we did in 2024, but we were doing it on a unified tax rate, Dufferin St. Stephen would go up by 1 cent. Charlotte Dennis Weston would go up by 1.15 cents. St. David would come down by 1.74 cents. And to try and put that into perspective for you, on a $200,000 property, a resident in Dufferin would pay $21.40 extra per year. Charlotte Dennis Weston would pay $23 extra per year, and the residents of St. David would save roughly $35 per year to equalize that. So, I mean, it's while we should never say that $21 isn't important, it's important to some people for sure. It is a negligible impact. It does allow us to. There are administrative benefits to only having the 2 rates, and it does equalize those. And it does actually mean, in my reading of all the documents provided by G&B at the time of amalgamation, that it actually meets their goals, which is that similar properties should be treated in the same fashion. So, I mean, that's my quick take on it. Like I said, I apologize that the timelines for responding to the government were short, but I'm happy to take any questions or entertain any way, help any way I can.
Okay. I think you must have explained it well. Yeah. Thank you. Oh, sorry, Councilor Wright. No, almost.
I just had one comment, and goes back to earlier days on the RSC. I believe part of the reason St. David wasn't intentionally subsidizing, it was policing plays a large factor in that, and the policing budget was based on property values and population. So I think that kind of created the disparity because the property values are higher. It's not that they were actually receiving more services, they weren't. But that played a factor in the rates.
For me, Your Worship, for sure, the policing is a big part of it. But like I said, we've seen it in other services, the way that the government was running their spreadsheets, because we did get access eventually to some of those spreadsheets, and without criticizing my friends at the GNB, I would just say that I would have taken a different approach to how those costs were shared across the region.
Okay, so on that, I had a mover and seconder. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you for your work on that. All right, mover and seconder for the electronic sign policy. Councillor Eastman, Councillor Harding. That council approves the electronic sign policy as presented. Any questions? All's in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay. I just want to say, I wasn't at the committee meeting, so it's a lot different when you weren't at the committee the whole meeting. Anyways, mover and seconder for council grants program policy. Councillor Rodas, Councillor Eastman. That council approves the council grants program policy as presented. Any questions? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Mover and seconder for the fee waiver reduction request policy. Councillor Rodas, Councillor Greenlaw. Oh, yeah, Greenlaw. That council approves the fee waiver reduction request policy as presented. Any questions? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Mover and seconder for nomination to Board of Bayside Port Corporation. Councillor Harding. Councillor Greenlaw. That council accept the resignation of Mr. William Young with gratitude for his years of service. Further, that the name of David Archambault be submitted to the municipal partnership as a potential replacement for Mr. Young as a shareholder representative and director of Bayside Port Corporation. That's good news. Any questions on that? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, David, and thank you, Mr. Young, for all your years of service. Okay, mover and seconder for financial systems and processes review award of contract. Councillor Heislip. Councillor Otis. RFP tender notice MDSS 24-02. Okay, so I'll read it here. That council award the contract for the financial systems processes review to MNP LLP of Dieppe, New Brunswick, in the amount of $78,750 plus HST and disbursements. Further, that the Chief Administrative Officer be authorized to establish a project management team to oversee the work of MNP LLP during the project. Questions? Councilor Greenlaw.
Yeah, just one clarification on where the funds will come from for that, 78,000.
So the treasurer and I are working on that. Our proposal at this point in time would be to use the special projects funding under general government in your budget. That would cover cover 50,000, with the remainder to be drawn on the general operating reserve.
Questions? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay. Oh, let me see one here. Mover and seconder for the policing priorities meeting update. Councillor Eastman and Councillor Rodas. The council approves the redirecting. Oh, sorry, I'm jumping ahead there. Anyway, so anyway, for information purposes, you see in the package there from the policing meeting. Okay, thank you. I'll name that we kept the same top 3: crime reduction and prevention, community engagement and visibility, to include mental health and avenues, and drug-related crime. And that's been the top 3 last year, so we continued on. Yeah, sorry.
Like last year was open at the Oak Bay Hall, and I think one of the priorities was repeat offenders, though, too. But one of the questions asked, and I think it was Councillor Greenlaw that asked it, and I was concerned about it too, is that there's no measurability on any of these. So we don't know what happened last year, like.
Well, we get the reports.
We get the reports, but there's not really anything measurable there to say that actually did they stop? How many repeat offenders did they stop? How many, right? I mean.
That's the question that was asked at the meeting again. And
that's what I wanted to know, if it was asked. It's probably asked every year, right? Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, shit.
I noticed there's some things there with regards to the reporting, and it looks like they might be changing some of the reporting. So are they talking about the quarterly report? Is it not going to be as detailed and broken down as it has been in the past?
So as you know, technology's changing, so they actually get a, what would you call it, an active reporting thing that they're utilizing too, so, which I believe that the address is in that report too, to go see it, and you can look on their a site, and you can go check other communities too and see what's going on actively. So it's moving, if that's the right word.
It's not being watered down, though. We're still going to get the detail.
Yeah. Councilor Rodas?
So I know this is in our package. Is this accessible online for the average resident too?
I believe so.
Great, okay. I was just wondering if we can share it, because I do find it interesting, like just the amount of calls based on the Mental Health Act. Like that's a huge piece of their job. And anyway, I just found it interesting to look at that, because I can imagine that would take a significant amount of their time. And the suspicious person on property, yeah, that would be, that would it would be very time consuming, not knowing if something criminal has actually even happened. Are these actual charges that were laid, or are these just incidents, calls?
Just a register of their events that goes beyond them. Yeah. Thank you. All right. So I had a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay. Well, holy mackerel. Okay, mover and seconder for amendment to 2024 operating budget. Councilor Harding, Councilor Heislip, that council approves the redirecting of $100,000 from 2024 budget line road surface renewal, representing part of the budget line, to be included in the 2024 budget line sidewalk renewal. Okay. All right, any questions? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, mover and seconder for the proposed removal of the covered bridge at Gateway Park.
I so move.
Councilor Eastman, Councilor Cornish. All right, any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, mover and seconder for development of the incentive agreement approvals. Mover and seconder, please. Councilor Rodas, Councilor Wright. That the development incentive agreements for 433 Milltown Boulevard and 99 King Street, both in the municipal district of St. Stephen, be approved in the forms previously presented to council. Questions? Comments? Jeff, go ahead.
Just for clarification, I know this came in as the last minute item for council. Both these incentive agreements have been, as the resolution reads, have been presented previously. What we didn't have was a proper record in the minutes of their approval, and doing so does provide not only public transparency, but also actually provides some protection for the treasurer when he releases the funds. So we wanted to just make sure it's a housekeeping matter. We'll make sure we don't miss it on future ones, but we just wanted to backtrack and make sure that this was on there officially in your minutes for those purposes.
Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? You weren't opposing though, right? Oh, okay.
No, I'm all good for it, yeah.
All right, so okay. Approved. Okay, what do you want to do?
I just want to go back one item on the covered bridge.
Okay, yes, okay.
I just want to make sure I do care with the Don Sweeney sign, make sure that that's taken care of and, okay, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, no, Paul, someone else is hitting the button there. Jesus. Jeepers. Yeah, I'm sorry, like I said, I wasn't at the committee whole meeting, but I thought you might have discussed that already, okay, yeah, all right. Thank you for your discussion on that and taking action. All right. Proposed resolution, the following correspondence be acknowledged and received by council. I need a mover and seconder for the Planning Review and Adjustment Committee PRAC letter Z303. Okay, good. They look pretty okay. Okay, so, and then the Charlotte County Abuse Prevention Network Annual Wear Teal Day Initiative. So, any questions on those two items? Oh, Councilor Rodas?
So I saw something online. There is teal something available here at Garceland Civic Center for pickup. Is that true? Like if it said if you're looking for something teal to wear, you can stop by Garceland Civic Center.
That would come from the Community Services Department, so I don't have personal knowledge of that, but we can confirm that for you.
Yeah. I'd have to be on there to see it, I guess. All right.
It's great partnership.
Yeah, yes, yeah. Now I get thrown off here. All right, had to move in seconder. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, next up, mover and seconder to accept the council reports acknowledged and received.
So moved.
Councilor Eastman?
Second.
Councilor Cornish? All those in favor? Oh.
Any questions here?
Oh, you got questions?
Might be the first time. Question to council reports. I see that there has been MDSS town hall for Ward 3, was it? Yeah. So, I mean, I represent all of MDSS. I was voted in on Ward 2. Is there going to be a report sent to council to see what those discussions were? Because I have to make decisions on budget as well as everybody else does, right? So I want to know what the concerns are out there prior to making decisions.
There is one. I know you got a report. Yeah. Yeah.
So there's, yeah.
Oh, Shannon there.
Yeah, so we've already captured the stuff and yeah, so we can share it. Yeah, it'll be great. Yeah.
Should have been there. Then you wouldn't have to ask this question.
Yes, Councilor Cornish?
Councilor Wright itself have discussed the same thing, and we're going to have a similar one, I think, in June sometime. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, we, just a resident of our ward saw that the other ward had done one and they specifically asked for us to do one for our ward. So we're just following up on a request.
Okay. Yes, go ahead, Councilor.
One of the things that we really promoted was Ward 3 to be at that next training session that you put up for the next budget.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Get some more involvement, yeah. Okay. All right, mover and seconder was there, no more questions. All those in favor accepting the reports? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried, thank you. Need a mover and seconder for the proposed resolution that pursuant to Section 68, Bracket 1, the Local Governments Act, council move to closed session for the purpose of discussing 1, financial matter, 2, personal matter.
So moved.
Councilor Eastman, Councilor Cornish. Any questions?
Personnel, not personal.
Oh, sorry, personnel. No, not good. No, actually, there's a difference, but yes. Yes, but they both fall under closed, though. That's fine. All right, thank you. Don't get personal with me. All those in favor?
I have a comment.
Oh, Okay, on this? Okay.
On the teal day, I need to.
Okay, let me, yeah. So they're all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion, or approved for closed.